I'm Lisa Haisha. Welcome to the Legacy Interviews. Today, I am sitting with Sue Wong, the fashion icon. I am so excited to be here. I have been a fan of hers. I've been wearing her dresses. She makes everything just that much more spectacular when you're in her clothes. You cannot go to a party without feeling regal and special, and she just transforms you. So I found her on Facebook through a mutual friend, and I just went, I've got to get her in this seat to talk to her, and let's explore her together. So welcome, Sue Wong.
Thank you so much, Lisa. It's a pleasure to really converse with you this morning.
Oh yes, just walking through your doors. Your home is like a palace. It's like an art museum, and it's so homey, it's so warm.
Thank you. Well, welcome to the Cedars, also known as the Norma Talmadge estate. Norma Talmadge was the preeminent movie star of the silent era, and she was the inspiration for the character of Norma Desmond in Billy Wilder's iconic movie, Sunset Boulevard. Mr. DeMille,
Yes,
I'm ready for my close-up.
yes.
She uttered that immortal line. She and her husband, Joe Schenck, lived here in the late 1920s, and he was the founder of United Artists Pictures, as well as 20th Century Fox. I believe that United Artists Pictures he founded with Mary Pickford, Sir Douglas Fairbanks, as well as Charlie Chaplin. So they lived here, and Howard Hughes lived here, and so many greats during the ages lived here, including Bela Lugosi. And because Bela Lugosi lived here, Johnny Depp lived here when he did the research for the movie Ed Wood, which was a Tim Burton movie. So then in the 60s, it became a rock palace. And you had the likes of Dennis Hopper, who really filmed Easy Rider here. There was a bordello scene. And there was also another scene where Peter Fonda leaned over one of my lion fireplaces. As a matter of fact, the fireplace in the library. And then you also had the likes of Jimi Hendrix living here. You had Lou Reed and the Velvet Underground living here. You had Bob Dylan, you had Van Morrison. I mean, it was just really fantastic. So I think all the greats of every decade, of every era that ever existed in Hollywood came through the portals of this magical home.
You feel it here. The energy is just so wonderful.
Well, if only these walls can talk.
Yes. Well, how did you find this place? What were you looking for?
I was looking for a 2-bedroom, 2-bath little in-town hideaway because my home, my main home was in Malibu and had been for many years. And then my business was growing, so we could not really, my ex-partner and I could not really afford the 80-hour plus that it really subtracted from our lives as a commute per month. So we looked for, a condominium where we were for a few years in downtown Los Angeles at the Promenade East building. And then all of a sudden the Walt Disney Concert Hall was being erected. And I just couldn't deal with all the jackhammering and all the debris flying in through the window across the street. So I said to my partner, I'm out of here. I want to look for a little in-town hideaway and 2-bedroom, 2-bath. And I found this colossus here. And she's just really the most spectacular, probably the most spectacular home ever built in Los Angeles.
What's her name?
The name of her, besides the Norma Talmadge estate, she was originally called the Cedars, and that's what I call her today. She occupied at one time 15 acres of beautiful grounds and terraced gardens and fountains and waterfalls, and just really there was a lake at the bottom of the hill, and the main gate was on Los Feliz Boulevard, but she really was the grande dame of her era, and she is still magnificent. I wouldn't say I live in a home, I live in a museum of art.
Yes.
She's a wonderful, one-of-a-kind masterpiece work of art.
How does this give you strength each day?
Well,
when you wake up to this.
My mantra is beauty, magic, transformation. Beauty is what I'm all about. Beauty is what I create. Beauty is what I live. And I just really, feel nurtured by the beauty and by the magic here because it transforms me. It just really enlivens me.
Did you feel a difference in your creativity compared to living in a condo in here?
Of course, there's just no comparison because, a lot of people have told me, well, the home is haunted. And I do feel the presence of spirits here, but they're very beautiful spirits. And I just really feel very, very honored to be a part of that creative legacy of spirits who really inhabit this home. Because I always tell people, I live with many famous ghosts.
Mm. So tell me, how did you become Sue Wong?
Well, I would say I've had really quite the life odyssey. It
Yeah.
began in Maui, China, where I was really born. And my father had come to America as a young man. And he worked very hard for 7 or 8 years and then went back to China after he saved his money on an ocean liner because he was about to turn 30 and it was high time to really take a bride. So he went back to China, was set up by a matchmaker, reviewed a series of ladies and decided my mother was the fairest one of all. And so he married her and stayed behind.
How old was she?
She was, in fact, 21.
Okay.
But my grandmother lied about her age and told him and his mother that she was 19, because in that culture, if you're not married by the age of 20, you're really an old maid. So
Isn't that fascinating how times have changed?
yes, the times and mores,
Mm-hmm.
everything, everything's changed in China now, of course. So anyway, he quickly fled the communists, and my mother and I were trapped because she was pregnant with me. She couldn't travel, and she had to also take care of my 83-year-old grandmother, whom I was very, very attached to. She was my first love, as a matter of fact. And so he plotted our great escape when I was 5.5 years old, and he, conspired, I guess, with some of the relatives who bribed the border guard, and my mother had sewn in her wedding. My mother had sewn her wedding jewelry into this little pillow, and I remember clutching it. And we were walking forever and ever, and then we reached the border guard station, and she handed the pillow to the border guard, and he released us to our freedom into Hong Kong, where relatives were greeting us, and they took us into safety, and we lived in Hong Kong for about a year until my father petitioned for us to really come to this country. And so I met my father, who was a complete stranger to me, and I met a stranger in a strange land at age 6.5, and I met my father for the first time. And that really affected, of course, my odyssey, because my father was very, very disappointed in me for not having been born number one son. So I think all my life I really have been trying to really prove something to him that I was really worthy, and therefore I became the overachiever that I am today.
So are you an only child?
No, I had 2 brothers who were born after my parents were reunited in this country. And sadly, they both died tragic, premature deaths, very untimely deaths. So in a way, sadly, I did become my father's number one son after all.
And what age was that?
Well, I lost my first brother just about the time that he was about to turn 21 years old. He was killed in a love triangle. And my youngest brother, we buried him on what would have been his 49th birthday, and he died of leukemia. So I've known a lot of loss and tragedies in my life.
How did you bond with your father when you were younger?
I did not ever bond with him. He was always an inordinately difficult man and very, very emotionally abusive towards me. And he always made me feel second rate, like I really didn't rate. And he used to say I would never amount to anything, and he should have just really, you know, not put in the effort to ever bring me here. And so, you know, I was very deeply angry at him, of course. And I think I finally forgave him, and we had this moment of deep transformation when I saw my father crumble and put his face into his hands as he was standing in front of my brother's coffin, my first brother, when he died. And he just really was shattered, completely shattered. His prized child, you know, just lying dead in the coffin. And my heart just really went out for him. And I felt so much deep compassion that even though I never touched him in my entire life, I went over and put my arms around him to comfort him. And at that moment, we were completely transformed. And instead of being angry and upset with me all the time, he became completely humbled and really at my service to really help me raise my two sons. So, you know, my parents lost both of their sons, and I gave my two young sons over to them to raise as replacement sons.
How old were you when you had children?
I was in my mid-20s, so I kind of got them out of the way.
So you got married at?
I got married at age 24.
24.
Yes.
And who was your husband?
My husband was Ralph Huang, and he was an artist and a stay-at-home dad.
And you were already pretty successful by then.
Yes,
correct?
I've been designing professionally since I was 19 years old.
Yes.
And
And you started at around 9, making a collar.
Yes, I think I started sewing my own clothes because I was really tired of wearing funny hand-me-downs or funny clothes that my mother would really put together for me that didn't look like Western clothing at all, and I was really embarrassed to wear them. While, you know, the other little girls, my classmates, you know, wore these pretty little dresses, and I wore these, you know, funny handmade things that looked like Chinese children from mainland China would wear. So I started making my own clothes at the age of 9, and I went to the 5 and 10 cent store and bought a piece of remnant for, I don't know, 35 cents or whatever it was, and then put this eyelet lace trim on this bateau neckline, and voila, a new designer was suddenly born.
But did you realize that at the time that, oh, I have a knack for this, or I like this? Did it give you that kind of fulfillment?
Well, to tell you the truth, Lisa, I believe I was born an artist, and if you really believe in the theory of reincarnation, I believe this has really been my job, or I've been in the business of art and aesthetics for many, many different lifetimes, because I consider myself to be a creative intuitive. In other words, whatever is visual, I think I can pretty much do, and do a pretty good job at it. I also happen to like writing, so I'm not a bad writer as well. I'm a good chef when I really want to be, and a good entertainer.
So everything creative, you have a
Everything
knack for, and
creative,
if you put
yes.
really time and energy into, you could be one of the best.
Yes, I believe I can.
So why did you choose fashion?
Well, I think, like I said, I could have really excelled at any of the visual arts. I actually wanted to be a fine artist or a painter originally. But why did I choose fashion? I think I chose fashion because in my work, I honor the goddess. I honor the divine feminine energy that resides in every woman. And,
Why?
I'm sorry?
Why? How did that happen?
Well,
Was your mom a loving, warm person? Or did you?
Well, I believe that, you know, there is that divine feminine energy that really exists in all women.
I do too,
And-
but how
and-
did that come from you, especially with your upbringing in China and?
Well, it relates to probably my relationship with my father. I'm Jungian, and I've been doing Jungian work for about 13 or 14 years, and I really believe that this is really part of my journey. You know, I'm aware of every subcontext in my life, every nuance, and what all the metaphors really mean. I believe that I went into fashion to really heal my own wounded goddess and to really reconnect with her because of the wounding that I received from my father at, being compromised psychologically because of my own dark father. And
That makes sense.
yes, it totally makes sense, doesn't it?
Yes, because you're really over the top, I want to say, but it's not over the top because you make it work. I mean, look at your jewelry.
Thank you.
I mean, everything about you is stunning. Every piece is stunning. Your shoes, your outfit. Look at the sculpture necklace and the earrings and the way you make up your face, the red lipstick, so bold. It's just...
Well, I have a very dramatic look.
Yes.
And I live a very large life.
And you scream, I am a woman and I am powerful. I am the #1 son.
Yes. So,
but a woman, yes.
Well, it's interesting, but I think a Buddhist monk once told me that I really have the perfect balance between yin and yang, or the eternal feminine as well as the perfect male. So I really dwell in both houses. And when we go to my portrait, which hangs in the foyer, I will explain all the hidden symbolism that's really embedded in that portrait.
Okay, yes, I saw it. It's spectacular also.
Thank you.
So when did your company really start to blossom?
Well, it was a really magical event that occurred. I had never designed evening wear in my entire life. And so magic does exist in the universe. So I'll really quickly relay this little story to you. One day, a Korean vendor came in with 3 suitcases of gowns from China, and they were the most hideously designed gowns I'd ever seen. But I didn't look at the design of the gowns. I looked at the techniques, and they were really old world couture techniques such as hand beadwork, passementerie, soutache embroidery, crochet, hand painting, etc. So he said, well, you can design your own silhouettes, you can do your own designs using these techniques. So I did that, and my older son, who eventually graduated from Yale University with his MFA in fine art, he became the artist that I never, was able to really become as a fine in studying art. But anyway, so he came in to help me with the artwork and drew it full size on the garments. And then I sent the artwork, via this Korean agent. And lo and behold, 1 month later, I got my samples back, and they were just really magnificent. So they sold like hotcakes. But the Korean guy was very unethical and overcharged so much for these garments for the FOB price. And I was really selling them wholesale for what he wanted to charge me. So I got a huge stack of orders, and I said to my partner, there has to be a way of really, making these for the fair price. So he set me up with 3 factories, and I had this epiphany. So let me backtrack a little bit. So anyway, I had this epiphany, and I sat up in bed and I said, I must go to Hong Kong or China to get these stacks of orders produced, because we'll lose our shirts otherwise. So he set me up with 3 factories after doing some research, and I took my 6 garments and put them in a tote bag. And so I walked into my first appointment with my tote bag in Hong Kong, and wouldn't you believe, of all the factories, thousands and thousands of factories in China, I walked into the factory that the Korean agent had used to really make my samples. And I saw every single one of my samples, over there. So, being the businesswoman I am, I basically didn't say anything, except I said, William, you must be a very busy man. Please leave me for a few minutes and let me just really see what you have, and I'm considering transferring all of my production overseas, which I finally did, by the way. And so I called him back after a few moments, after I gathered up all of my clothes, and I picked out a few other samples as to not be conspicuous. And so I had him calculate the FOB price, and sure enough, they were a fraction of what the Korean guy wanted to charge. So anyway, at that time, I just really, unzipped my tote bag, and I said, I want you to know that that you are talking to the designer of these garments, because here are my 6 copies. And so I started doing business out of China, and the year was 1999. I had never designed evening wear in my entire life, and I said to myself, the millennium is coming up in 5 months. It was July of 1999. And so I designed 25 garments on the spot, distributed them between 3 factories, and then 1 month later, I was able to market them in time for the August market and ship them for November delivery of 1999, 1.5 months before the millennium. And they flew out, they were just selling like hotcakes. And I launched a brand new business. And that's how I got into evening clothing.
Okay, so that sounds amazing. I want to back up a little bit.
Yes.
You say you just whipped up like 25 gowns.
On the spot.
Yeah, how do you do that? Especially if you've never done that before. What did you do for inspiration? You didn't have this home at the time.
No. I've always been a very, very creative person, and I channel creativity from a divine source, because I really do believe that all creation comes from a divine source. My friend Master Romeo Shrestha, who is the master artist to His Holiness the Dalai Lama, basically says that you cannot tap into creativity unless you are in tune with your higher self. So when I really go into that state of creativity, I am connected to my higher self, which is really the divine essence of who you are. So I can really create on demand, just like that.
So what's your process when you say you channel?
There is no process. I just really sit down and things come to me.
Do
it's
you meditate?
automatic. I meditate, and I'm also a very introspective person. I think about everything, that happens and occurs in my life. I think of the higher purpose of what it all means to me, or in the bigger picture of things.
Do you journal about it?
I used to journal, but I write a lot of long, beautiful, soulful letters to friends, and of course they are kept in my records as well. I think I should go back to writing journals, because I remember when I was a young woman in my early 20s, one of my heroines was Anna East Nin in the Diaries of Anna East Nin.
I love her. I was
too.
obsessed with all of her books.
Yes,
everything in her writing.
I read Anna East. I read Henry Miller. I really love that whole period of the 20s and 30s in Paris, and I think the 20s and 30s is very much my era. I really felt that it was just really...
Simone de Beauvoir,
yes,
Isadora Duncan.
Yes, Simone de Beauvoir was a little bit later. I think she was really in with the existentialists,
yes,
and Jean-Paul Sartre,
yes,
and Albert Camus, and that whole group in the 40s, 50s, Café Society, yes, Paris, but I'm a Francophile. I love all things French, and I still dream about having an apartment in Paris one of these days, yes, maybe somewhere along the Seine.
Oh, it's so beautiful there. I just took my daughter there for the first time. And
it's magical.
Oh, it's magical. You get so inspired there.
Yes.
Yes, but for somebody like you, when did you realize your creativity was at such a high level that you had this ability to channel and create 25 designs where most people would be sitting there going, I have to do this, and stress out and maybe not meet deadlines? Or
Well, to tell you the truth, I think my record for one day was 74 designs. And I don't know whether you realize this, but I do, I create about 1,500 designs per year. And not all of them are, completely used, but a good portion of them are, because I design for 5 seasons a year, and each season has about 300 designs. So that's about 1,500 designs.
how many do you put in one of your shows?
I only show probably, were you at my last Fairies and Sirens show?
No, but I'd like to be at
Well,
your next one.
well, the next one is coming up on March the 9th, so you'll definitely get
Okay.
an invite.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. They're really sort of, I would call them fashion theatrical experiences. They're not your really regular runway shows at all, but I really like my models to really be archetypal goddesses on the runway. And so they really channel that Sue Wong goddess energy. And they're usually pretty spectacular.
Yeah, I saw some on YouTube.
Thank you.
And on your website, and yes, I researched that thoroughly, and I was just fascinated, and my 6-year-old was fascinated, going, wow, wow. Like, yes, I'm meeting her tomorrow, and she said, I love her dresses. Does she make them for girls? So do you make them for kids?
Well, one of these days I hope to really, be doing children's wear. My main ambition right now, other than just really continuing my creative work in fashion, is to really branch out into licensing of the Sue Wong name and to build a global brand. So to expand more into homeware. I would love to really design a Sue Wong boutique hotel, for instance.
Oh, that would be incredible.
And I really enjoyed designing interior spaces. And I'm very, very versatile. You think that this is really my only modality, but it really isn't, because I just really finished remodeling inside and outside. I just finished recreating my Malibu home, which I've had for 22 years. And I wanted to really sort of expunge, my excess energy out of the place. So I just tore everything apart, redesigned the gardens, reconfigured the spaces. So I did the architecture. I did not work with an architect. I did, however, had a really great contractor. And so I reconfigured everything, redesigned the patios, redesigned the swimming pool. I put in fire pits, both in the front and the back. I have a huge panorama, of an ocean front view, because it's really front row center, so to speak. So, you have this incredible white water view, white sand view, because I'm high about probably 50 or 60 feet on a bluff above the ocean, and it's just really astounding. So I'm capable of doing everything. That house,
And it's
by the
more
way,
cubism in design.
Yes, that design, that particular home is going to be all contemporary, all concrete, glass, wood, and that's where my very extensive modern art collection is going. Well, it's already hung. So right now it looks like a huge, enormous gallery space with 21 foot high ceilings and white walls that really open up to ocean, sun, air, gardens. So I have 3 homes which I call body, mind, and spirit. So the Cedars, which we're sitting in, is the feminine corporeal body. Mm-hmm. The realm of the mental sphere, which is much more intellectual, is my modernistic Malibu house, which I call Art House, with an H-A-U-S, spelled German style. And I've been a huge collector of modern art for about 25, 28 years, a long time. And while I do have a Warhol and that sort of thing, I also, for the most part, collect my own contemporaries, because I really think that it's appropriate that I collect my best friends, who are some of the finest artists here in LA. And then the realm of the spirit belongs to my home in Hawaii, which is located in this very remote jungle and rainforest. And my next door neighbor happens to be the actor Woody Harrelson. But it's in a pristine, gorgeous.
What part of Hawaii?
It's on the island of Maui, in East Maui, which is very, very rugged and very, very remote. You have to travel about 2.5 hours on the winding Hana Road to get there. The Hana Road is one of the most famous drives on the planet, along with the Amalfi Drive. But it's really just utterly spectacular. It's pure nature. It's the full-on nature experience. There are no mini malls. There are no restaurants. There are no ice cream yogurt parlors, t-shirt stands, nothing but pure, unadulterated, gorgeous nature. So I find that I really need a full-on balance in all three realms to be a complete human being.
So you spend a certain amount of time in each place each year?
Yes.
How do you work that out?
Well, basically I spend 4 nights here at the Cedars, and you're going to laugh, but one of the reasons that why the Cedars appeal to me, other than its fabulous beauty, is the fact that it's only 10 minutes away from my corporate office building, which is located in the historical Wilshire district. And Los Feliz is where all the old movie stars, the movie stars of the 1920s and 1930s lived before Beverly Hills and Bel Air became popularized. I would allocate my time in the following way. I would spend 4 nights a week here at the Cedars, and then from Friday night on to Monday morning, I would really be at my home in Malibu, which is sort of my weekend retreat and sanctuary. And then when I feel compelled to really go home to my spiritual sanctuary in Kipahulu on the island of Maui, I would really go there to just really decompress and to chill out and just be blissed out and in communion with nature.
That's wonderful.
Thank you.
How do you create your days? Do you have a vision plan for your life, or did you ever?
Yes, actually, I think I ascribe to the belief that you better be careful what you wish for, because it just may happen. I believe that thought is powerful. I think that thought forms really have energy. And the more energy you really give a thought, it will manifest as destiny. So I really have created the destiny that I have always wanted with the power of my thought forms. The only place where I have not been as successful is really in the realm of finding the right partner and man for myself. I have a more difficult time manifesting that. And I think it's because that's where my Achilles heel lies. It's really from the wounding of, my dark father. And it's been a lifetime wound which I'm trying to heal. And I think that's really the higher purpose of all of us being here, is to really heal ourselves. I met this mysterious master who mystically appeared in my life. He lived in the back hills behind my very, very remote home in Kipahulu. And he was the dean of Shanghai University. And he looked in every way, like a wisdom sage with a white beard and a goatee and the long white hair. And, he was kind of crazy too, but, complete coyote energy. He was a really major transformer. But his name was Master Alfred Huang, and he wrote the definitive new translation of the I Ching. So he was a feng shui master, a Tai Chi master, and an I Ching master. So he said there are basically 4 great purposes for being here on this planet within this lifetime. The first one is really healing ourselves, because we're all sort of wounded creatures. You know, we all have our wounds, we all have our vulnerabilities, and we act out our wounds, unfortunately, either against ourselves, you know, and we turn against ourselves because we don't have enough self-love or self-respect, or we sadly turn our wounds against others. And that is why you have war and trouble and chaos and pestilence in the world and in civilization. And that's why man acts out against man. And that's why you have the inhumanity, you know, that happens and occurs in the world between nations, between different, you know, ethnic, you know, factions. So, and that's why there is this dysphoria, you know, and this sense of unease within ourselves, you know, on an individual level, and then it really goes on to a collective level of acting out against each other. So I think healing ourselves is very first and foremost of importance to me. You know, one of the greatest teachers, in my opinion, of the 20th century is Joseph Campbell, you know, whose books I really have read quite a bit of. But he says that the world is a messed up place. It will always be a messed up place because humans are humans. And it doesn't really matter whether you're American or whether you're French or whether you're, you know, from an Arabic country. Humans are humans everywhere. You cannot change the ways of the world. The only thing that you can really do is to change yourself. So can you imagine if every one of us began with ourselves to really affect change internally, and we change our internal makeup, that would have a rippling effect that would just really reverberate throughout humanity everywhere. And you could really change the general consciousness of humanity in that respect. But it all comes from self first. And so that's really one of the, you know, main purposes of being here. The other one is contribution. How can we really contribute? You know, what can we give of our essence to really help, you know, the world become a better place? In my case, I contribute beauty, because beauty is what I do best. And the next person might have, you know, other talents to really give. And the third thing is learning. We can never really learn enough. You know, I'm here to really learn as much as I can, both about myself and through different, you know, cultural aspects that other artists and other thinkers, other great thinkers have really, you know, contributed over the course of time and history. I mean, if I really had my druthers, I would love to have lived, or I would love to have had 500 years or more to live, you know, because you can't really do it all in one lifetime, but we can just really do our best. Yes.
I could talk to you all day, but we're running out of time.
Thank you.
Last question, what would you like your legacy to be?
My legacy is one of beauty. I have a beautiful oceanfront 35-acre parcel that I bought a few years ago from the estate of one of the Mellon families in Kipahulu. It's adjacent or contiguous to, you know, one of my parcels there. And I would like to leave a lasting imprint, because this house was really conceived by a French director and an academically trained artist by the name of Maurice Tournier. In my role here, I'm basically a keeper of the flame. I'm basically her temporal steward. As I am the temporal steward of this other magnificent 35-acre parcel. But I would like to really actualize my vision of beauty, and I would like to really build a series of temple palaces as more of an enduring imprint, as a leave behind, for when I leave or when I depart this planet. I would really like to leave a legacy of beauty for future generations to enjoy, that I created some sort of lasting imprint of beauty.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for spending this time with me. It was so enlightening. I think we
Thank
need
you.
to do a part 2. I didn't even get to like 20 questions I wanted to ask you.
Well, we didn't talk about my clothes, which is all about beauty,
Yes.
magic, and transformation,
Yes.
and honoring the goddess, but we'll do that some other
Yes,
time.
could we possibly do a part 2?
Absolutely.
Yes,
My
there's so much
pleasure.
more.
I'm very honored.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you so much.
Thank you.